What is up, everyone? I like that background music. Isn't it nice? Very soothing.
Very exciting.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. Although I think the demo today might be a little bit more exciting than the music.
I hope so.
Usually it takes a couple seconds for people to trickle in. So as everybody's coming in, I always love to hear where people are all not dialed in, but logged in from. If you want to give a shout out real quick in the comment section, let us know who's online right now, tuning in to what's about to be the best yet demo with Doug. So
no pressure then.
No pressure. It's a special one today too. First time we're bringing on one of our beloved technology partners, Fivetran. So it's not just demos with Doug, it's demos with Doug and David. David Millman. Quick intro from you, David.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm a partner sales engineer for Fivetran. I live in Dallas and looking forward to a good session today.
Love it. I'm pumped to have you on board today. Doug, you want to give a quick intro as well?
Sure, yeah. So I'm a senior solution architect with Coalesce. I've been here for 6 months. I've been doing data warehousing for literally tens of years.
Awesome. Well, I'm pumped to have you both back. Obviously, Doug, you're the star of the show. David, you're another star as a co-star of the show. One of the reasons why I'm most excited about doing this together with Fivetran is because I've always felt like the philosophy behind Fivetran's technology is so similar to that of Coalesce, but for a different part of the analytics workflow and the analytics stack. And so David, Doug and I, we encountered Fivetran like very, very early, I think pre-Series A days, and saw the technology and just loved how it simplified what's been a huge pain for a lot of organizations when it comes to ingesting data. And in the earlier stages, it was more focused on web sources. So ingesting data from, different types of APIs and, your Salesforce and Marketos. And we had great relationships with the team at HVR during that time as well. And so it was so cool to see that acquisition happen from Fivetran, where it's now as a business crossing the chasm from this more focused, web-based SaaS solution, but also can support the most intense, complicated, large volume on-premise database systems as well, which is something that I think a lot of the world hasn't really recognized just yet. And so we were really excited to have you on to demonstrate some of that. When I say, super complicated, large volumes, really what I mean is true log-based change data capture. Ingesting the data from the logs versus, trying to use a push or pull mechanism that puts a lot of strain on the platform. It's a much more intricate, delicate way to ingest massive volumes of data and apply that kind of scalability aspect along with the simplification and automation that Fivetran provides. I think is, match made in heaven, along with kind of the pickup point from when those tables are landed on your platform in its raw format for something like Coalesce with a gentleman like Doug to drive and actually take that raw data and deliver value to the business incredibly quickly and in a similar automated, simplified, easy to use fashion. So I'm juiced to see this. Looks like we got several people tuned in from different areas: Washington, Colorado, Georgia. Welcome everybody. If there's a little delay, feel free to shout out where you're at, dialed in. But why don't we get started? I'm really excited about this. I think this is going to be an end-to-end, what used to be ETL, now ELT, automated, simplified, easy to use demo of a complex source system from David, and then some transformations applied as well from Doug. So I'll stop talking. You guys are the star of the show. I'm just here for the good time. David, why don't you jump into sharing us what you're going to be loading from and really what Fivetran's going to accomplish before Doug takes that data and turns it into something amazing.
Yeah, will do. Thank you for that. So can you see my screen? Just make sure we're all good.
Yep. Good.
So as was said earlier on, our goal is ELT, right? Our goal is to take data from any data source, from a SaaS application through to SAP or even like DB2 sitting on an iSeries, and be able to import that data to target database. In this case, what I'm going to show is to Snowflake very quickly and easily. And I sum it up in about 3 numbers. It should take 15 minutes to configure a pipeline. So if you think about that, 15 minutes to configure, whether it's Salesforce, SAP, or something else, it becomes very powerful in just being able to pull that data out of that system and get it to your target. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to pull 100% of that data. We're living in a world where data has become like the dial tone of what we need to go and do our business. And so you can't keep on going back to the source and asking for more information because you forgot to bring a piece of information across. You put all of it across and pull that very simply across. And we're going to show that in some retail data that I'm going to load into a Snowflake for Doug. And then finally, because we're doing a one-for-one mapping between source and target, we can manage all the schema evolutions, new objects, schema drift, all of that good stuff. And you no longer have to worry about it. Once you've created the pipeline, it's up and running, and it'll take care of itself as it evolves over time. So let's go in here and just do a demo now of what's actually happening. So I have this screen. This is my list of connectors I have going into a Snowflake instance. And you'll see I have everything from like files coming from SFTP, Amazon S3, to LinkedIn ads, to various relational databases, emails, and everything else. And they're all just pulling that data and pushing that in to Snowflake. What I've got is I've got a retail data set I'm going to load in. And rather than me show you all of the typing going on, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to configure any of these pipelines. So when you go into Fivetran, you'll see on the left like the screen that shows the information that's required to actually access that instance, in this case, a Postgres database. So things like host name, port name, number, username, password, the standard stuff that you'd expect. And on the right-hand side, you'll always see the help pages. So you've always got that contextual help right there with you as you go through the Fivetran platform. Once you've configured the connection information, the next big challenge is really how are you going to use the network or going to connect that resource over a network. And so because this is both all over in the cloud, I can connect directly, but quite often what normally happens is that data is sitting behind a firewall where you cannot initiate a cloud first conversation. So we do think we support SSH tunnels, reverse SSH, and also including going across your VPN. And if you're purely in the cloud and you're using your own VPCs and you're going across different regions or different areas, we allow private link to ensure that your data never goes across the public internet. So very simply, we're able to sort of manage the network side. And then our connector is going to do 2 things. All of our connectors basically take a historical load that pulls all of that information that's currently sitting in that database, in this case, the Postgres database. And it's also going to detect changes in that data and automatically forward them. So the last piece of this connector is really just saying how are we going to detect those changes and propagate them. As alluded to earlier, we have a number of different ways of accessing that or implementing that based on the SLA and other considerations. In this case, I'm just going to take the xmin1 from Postgres, and I'm going to hit save and test and move to the next stage.
It's awesome to see. It's awesome to see the private link support. I wasn't aware that Fivetran was capable of that. That's great.
Yeah, and it's across all of the 3 major cloud vendors as well.
Excellent.
So it's really a big deal. Certainly, as companies have moved over into their own private VPCs, it really opens up a way of interacting that wasn't there before.
Very cool.
And so the next stage is we're going to run a series of tests to make sure we can connect the database, read the schemas, do everything we want to do. And so at this point, you can guarantee that when we hit a green box at the bottom, that everything is set up on the connector and we're ready to go. So I'm going to hit continue on this point. And now the last but one stage is really just understanding what the schema looks like. And as I said earlier on, we're going to pull 100% of the schema across because that's best practice in an ELT environment. So it's going to give me a list of all the schemas in here. I've got 6 here. I'm just going to pull across the retail schema. So I give that to Doug for him to interact with. I can go down and I can see the different tables that are in there, whether that be the customer table or sales orders. I could prune this. I could do some hashing if I wanted to on the data set, but that's really it. I'm just going to move all of that data because we need all of that information ready for Coalesce to do all their goodness with. So I'm going to hit save and continue. And finally, it's like, okay, then the last number I gave you was 0, right? Which was how much maintenance do you really want to do? And the answer is you don't want to do any, right? You want to just allow this thing to run 24/7, make sure it's up and running. If there's new schemas, new attributes added, just move those automatically. And by selecting this box here, I'm going to hit allow all, let Fivetran take care of all of that for me, hit continue. And now we are ready to go. So within a few minutes, I've got everything configured. I'm going to start initial sync. And now that data is being pulled across from Postgres and being pushed directly into Snowflake, ready for Doug.
Just like that.
Beautiful.
Just like that.
I was going to say, I mean, I love seeing technology like this. It makes it so simple that even somebody like I could use it, believe it or not. And so I remember seeing this technology the first time years and years ago. Love the concept of it. It's so simple. And, you know, just to give a quick shout out to Joe Reese and Matt Housley, you know, they're the authors of the book, The Fundamentals of Data Engineering. And one of their forecasts for the future of the analytics industry was all about tools being easier to use, more simplified, more automated. It's just so easy, and something that's been so painful for so many companies and people. So yeah, simple as that. Let's make some magic happen, Doug, and bring that data to life.
All right.
Over to you, Doug.
All right, let's do it. Let's see. All right, well, now we should be seeing Coalesce. So yeah, so Coalesce, of course, is a transformation tool for building out analytical systems like data warehouses. But we don't do the ingest part. That's why we need to partner up with our friends at Fivetran to get the data into Snowflake. And where I'm going to start here is I'm going to read the definitions in or add the sources for the tables that David's just loaded for me into Snowflake. So here I can see those tables. I'm just going to grab everything in there. We've got a little audit table as well. I can click on these and we can see that there's data been loaded. And the nice thing about this data is that Fivetran adds a timestamp for when the data got loaded into Snowflake. That's really handy. And so I thought for this demonstration, I'd show how we could use Coalesce's ability to build sort of custom templates and add some logic automatically for me, and leverage that synced column so that we can drive some incremental processing. But anyway, the first step for using Coalesce is to import the definitions of data. So we've just done that, very nice and quick and easy. Now, if I double click on this, we can see that we've just read in the system catalog. We can see the columns that we've loaded in. We can see the Fivetran synced column down the bottom here and all the other bits and pieces about the customer and that customer data set. And what I'm going to do, first of all, is I'm going to start building a sort of a standard pipeline. I'm going to leave that audit table alone. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add nodes. And I've got this Fivetran incremental node type. It's basically just a view that filters data so that we only load new data through our pipeline. And you can see it's very quick and easy for me to do this. So there's a couple of things I want to show in here. Number one is the beauty of these custom nodes, or these user-defined nodes. The other is I can just do things really, really quickly. So I'm just going to go and create those nodes. And so if we look in here, it's just right now a view over the top of that data from Fivetran loaded. Now I can see here we've got loyalty segments and we've got customers. Those look like dimensions to me. So I'm just going to quickly add some dimensions over the top of those. And if I come in here, for a dimension, I just need to identify a business key, and then I can go off and I can create that. And I can run it. And so we've got a populated dimension table full of loyalty segments, all 4 rows. Beautiful, very, very big table. All right, and this one here, if I double click on this guy, that set a business key of customer ID, and that looks good. Let's go and create that. I'm not going to worry too much about type 2 attributes. Everything here is being kept as a type 1 attribute. I'm not going to this part down here. And we can see down here that we've loaded a whole bunch of data in here. Now, if we come back through our pipeline and have a look at, say, this incremental customers table or view, this was a node type that I built specifically for Fivetran. And if we have a look down here at the options that are available to us, right now, we haven't specified any filtering. So if I fetch the data, this is the full data set from the source. What I want this to do is only show me data or contain data that's newer than the last data I published, in this case, to DIM customers. So I can drive an incremental pipeline. So here I'm going to filter on persistent table, and here I'm going to choose that, hey, the destination table for this is dimension customers. If I recreate this, what we'll see in our definition of this view is it's just tagged on a little where clause now. And it's saying, look at that Fivetran synced column and only contain or filter out data that's newer than the last time we loaded to DIM customers. So it's just a way of automating that pattern into all of those incremental pipelines.
So Doug, quick question for the audience. I mean, is this something that just helps from the overall elegance or maybe optimization on the Snowflake platform, so that way you're not driving too much compute unnecessarily versus like a drop and recreate?
Exactly right. We're kind of showing off the fact that, hey, we've got a whole bunch of pre-built patterns within Coalesce, but you can add your own. We can supply other extended sets of patterns. And in this case, this is a processing pattern that will work with Fivetran data, Fivetran loaded data, to leverage that synced date time to only move newer data. And you're right, it's going to save compute costs. We're not moving the full data set through each time. Right. Now we can just move the new data through. And so it's going to be cheaper with respect to Snowflake costs, for sure.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that, we were talking to a pretty big company out in Minnesota, and they were just, compute bill was going nuts because they're using a technology that for some reason just drops and recreates everything every single time throughout their entire pipeline. And so being able to approach this incrementally, especially in a simple way, I think helps guide users to doing the right things. So yeah, very cool.
Now, just a little bit further on in this demo. So this guy here looks kind of like a fact table of sales orders. It's like a subject of a fact table here. And if we have a look through here and look at the data, we can see that we've got an order number, but we've also got semi-structured data containing the ordered products and also the clicked items and the promo info. So this will be a nice example showing how we can work with semi-structured data within Coalesce. So not really anything specific to working with Fivetran. This is just semi-structured data. Now it's coming across as varchar data. And Snowflake likes to work with a variant data type to hold semi-structured data. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in a transformation and a change to the data type in this step here. So what I'm going to do for the transformation is I'm going to use a Snowflake function, try parse JSON. So that's going to apply this common transform to those 3 columns. And then I'm also going to say that this should be treated as a variant data type. I'm just going to make sure that that looks okay. Try parse JSON. Looks good. So now we've updated those 3 column definitions with that sort of common transform. If I recreate this and fetch the data, it shouldn't actually look any different, but now we're going to treat this as JSON data instead of just a string that looks like JSON. And now within Coalesce, I can come in here and I can add another step in our pipeline, and we can make use of some functionality that's built into Coalesce that reads the content of semi-structured data, a JSON document, in a variant column, and it's going to shred it apart into columns and rows. So I'm going to derive JSON mapping. And we can see that it's found these elements within that JSON document that's contained within that ordered items column. It looks good. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to create that and fetch the data. Now, what's interesting here is if I look at this order number, you can see now we've got duplicate values. And this is because we've now changed from being an order grain table, which we started out with this at this stage, it's basically at the grain of order. And if I fetch the data, I can sort there. So you can see this one, 030. We've got 1 record in here, but within this ordered products, we've got 3 ordered products or 3 order lines. So what we've done there is by shredding it apart, we've unnested the JSON. So we can see here that it's when I did that, resolve the JSON into tables and into columns and rows, it did a flatten. And so now that we've got, we have the multiple records per order, now order line. And this might be a good basis now to carry on and start building out our fact table. So now I can add another step where I can look up my dimension keys and I can drag in our dimension keys from the dimensions we made earlier. So here I can drag in our dim orders key. I can drag in our dim segments key. And now I can go through and start building the join to populate this. I'm going to generate the join. It's not going to do the best job of building that join just yet, but I can reconfigure this round so it starts at cell orders and looks up our dimension keys. And we can carry on and build out this little star schema. And you can see it's not taking me a huge amount of time to work with this data that Fivetran's put up onto Snowflake. I can leverage incremental processing super easy in a pattern-based way. And then I can use all the features and functionality of Coalesce to build out this processing pipeline and get to the point where I could publish this as a little data mart, maybe put some views over the top of it and expose it to a BI tool like Tableau or Power BI, whatever we want to stick over the top of this. And we'll finish off with a nice little fact table. Now our fact table, we need to define a grain, so I'm going to come down here and pick the ID of the product that's being bought. Okay, well, I'm not going to go into super detailed a view of all this because we've only got a short amount of time. But hopefully that gives you the impression that, hey, we can do a lot of stuff with Coalesce. We can apply these patterns in data warehousing. And data warehousing is riddled with patterns. You know, publishing to dimension tables, to data store tables, to data vault tables, incremental pipelines. They're all common patterns. And Coalesce makes working with patterns really easy. We have these user-defined node types and node types that are built in that really help us get there super quickly.
Makes total sense. For the audience, if you got any questions on either technology, Fivetran or Coalesce, feel free to drop something in the comments. But I think watching this, you basically go from raw data, your source system, whether it's Postgres or anything Fivetran supports. I think it's over 150 different sources at this point, if I'm not mistaken. Landed into Snowflake, be able to build a star schema using Coalesce within 30 minutes max. That's also loading that data incrementally as it changes from the source system. It's just so much easier than it used to be. Different technologies, whether it was legacy ETL tools or on-premise database systems, there's no setup. It's like just way more simplified. So it's awesome to be able to see this end to end and this the complementary aspects associated with Fivetran and Coalesce.
Yeah, no, I've worked in ETL tools and all sorts of tools beforehand, and this is by far the easiest way to work. Having the code to build a dimension table or shred apart the JSON, have that built for you and be good code is great from many perspectives. It's quick. You can see how quick it is. We got to a populated set of dimensions. We could get to a populated fact table in next to no time. And it's kind of optimized as well with the fact that we're using that incremental processing pattern built into this pipeline. Means that, hey, it's not just quick to build, but it's pretty optimal as well. And there's other incremental loading strategies, of course, but that's one that we can implement super easy and super quick.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's actually over 200 now, and we're always adding new extra sources to go in there. So when you think like the average enterprise probably has 200 or 300 applications out there,
right?
Most of those will just be a few clicks to go and push that data. So it's great in isolation to see Postgres go into Snowflake. But when you think about the power of pulling 200 or 300 data sources into one namespace, that truly becomes powerful when you can start deriving all kinds of value from it.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. 200 plus. I mean, Fivetran continues to support sources at a insane clip. So I love that. I also love just seeing the evolution of being able to support some of these more complex systems, these on-premise databases, whether it's like your Exadata or I could see like a Teradata, SAP, SQL servers, these big bulky on-premise systems, and applying that same simplicity to those types of sources is what I think is really exciting, as we typically work with a lot of these different enterprises at Coalesce and at Fivetran, and helping solve these big cloud migrations are always fun. So
yeah, I mean, having worked in the ETL space, the big one is like the SAPs and the 400 data, and just being able to configure that to go and start pulling data is just incredible. Yeah,
I agree.
And having the nice software as a service on both products, so that, hey, when having to install a whole bunch of stuff to get going, it's just lovely. It's nice and compatible from that perspective. Nice cloud first software as a service.
Easy use, simple, automated software as a service. I think all these same principles apply to both Coalesce and Fivetran, which is why it's such a great match. And I think somebody mentioned that earlier. Coalesce and Fivetran, a better together story. So it's been awesome having both of you gentlemen on. Doug, David, or I guess I should say demos with Doug and David today is just about to get wrapped up. If there's any other last thoughts or questions, feel free to reach out to either David or Doug on LinkedIn. They're always here. They're sticking around, and happy to touch base with anybody privately over LinkedIn. One last thing, if you're interested in Fivetran, want to check it out, just go check out their website, kick off a free trial, 14-day free trial, get that first initial load done for free and go have at it. Similar to Coalesce, you just check out coalesce.io. You can kick off a trial as well. And definitely don't miss the coffee with Coalesce. In a couple weeks here, we'll have Ben Robijan as our special guest, who is such a great person to talk about the space. I always love catching up with him. So we'll see you on there. Thanks, David. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you later.